Good evening. My name is Rocco from Not These Two Fucking Guys podcast. It is brought to our attention by some listeners that we are too juvenile, curse too much, and don't know shit about shit. Well, guess what? 3 for 3. But if you want to hear the best in music, sports, comedy, and dick jokes, then go to NTTFGPOD.com and subscribe. I'm Rock.
And I'm Archie.
Well, our opinions, they might not matter to some, but...
What are you doing in there?
It's a podcast.
Immature, crass, trashy. And those are their good qualities. These poor schmucks are a couple of IQ points away from eating paste. But when it comes to music, sports, and comedy, well, that's all they know. You're listening to
Not These Two Fucking Guys.
Not These Two Fucking Guys podcast.
Look at that beard. Christ. Looks like a muff puff.
What the fuck is a muff puff?
Exactly. If you have to ask, you can't afford it.
Let me ask you a question. Now, I'm gonna ask you this honestly, and I need you to answer it honestly. What does Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Jason Statham, Bruce Willis, Floyd Mayweather, and your old boy Archie have in common?
Ooh. I was going to say huge dicks, but you said yourself, so that doesn't count. I think I know.
Please, tell me.
You all got the same fucking haircut.
Yes, you are 70% correct. The answer I was looking for was we were all not named sexiest bald man of 2021. And
you don't say.
And they passed up on your boy Archie, which is fine.
Yeah.
But do you know who is the world's sexiest bald man?
You look like a high Jason Statham who loves carbohydrates. Well, I'm sorry. What was the question?
Do you know who the world's sexiest bald man is in 2021?
Okay, let me think about this and really, and this is judged by whom?
I'm reading this off WFLA.com, but I want to know what? I think it was put on. Honestly, I thought I fucking heard it was put on by like an aftershave shaving gel company.
Okay, I think I know who it is.
But could be totally fucking incorrect. But this is
the handsomest bald man of 2021.
Yes,
I'm gonna say the Rattlesnake, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
So close.
Oh,
the world's sexiest bald man, according to a study for 2021, is Prince William.
Okay, but no, but he's not like fully bald.
He's pretty fucking bald, bro.
I know, but when I think bald, I think of like bald head, not.
True,
but I think he's still rocking the U-Hawk, isn't he?
Like, hey man, shave your head. Nah, maybe not.
Yeah.
All the guys that I mentioned, they and myself, we shave our head.
Yeah.
Do you know when you open up a clementine? Do you like clementines at all?
I do. They're like the little oranges, right?
Yeah, correct. When you open up a clementine and you peel the skin and you get to the different little layers. Do you know those little strands in there? Like those little strings, those orange strings? That's what Prince William has on top of his nugget.
Yeah. But I get that, but I feel like he has hair on the sides. Like I get it.
He does.
I think he's rocking the U-Hawk.
U-Hawk.
Yeah.
That's fucking great. A U-Hawk.
The most handsome bald man.
Yes, he was. So we lost. All of us. Me, The Rock. Yeah, the Rock tweeted, "How in the cinnamon toast fuck does this happen?" when Larry David clearly has a pulse.
Oh my God, that's fantastic.
Yo, Rock.
What's up, dude?
Oh, this is a good night tonight, my friend. You ready for
Damn
this
right
one?
It is.
Oh, yeah. Our guest tonight is a real badass, to say the least. He's a veteran of the UFC, Bellator, Dream, King of the Cage, and Titan FC, just to name a few. And just like my sex life after high school, they call him No Love. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Not These Two Fucking Guys podcast, Rich No Love Clementi. What's up, Rich?
Doing good. I think my nicknames for a better reason, though. I'm just saying. So, but we'll just leave it right there. And guess what? I really don't want to know any details.
There isn't many details. That's the problem.
Exactly.
Brother man, how's everything doing? How's everything going? How's the family during these crazy times?
Good, real good actually. We so both my boys wrestle and they're both nationally ranked. So we travel around a lot right now, and you guys are from New Jersey, correct?
Correct.
Here we are.
Yeah, so I'm from there originally, and but down here it's a little bit more looser than the East Coast and stuff. There's a lot of little hubs of kind of some normalcy. Florida's wide open right now.
Okay.
So we actually have a big scrimmage tomorrow at my wrestling gym. We got a bunch of kids. A lot of like-minded parents, man. They just see their kids suffering. They see their kids missing out on kind of the experience. You can never get those days back.
Yeah.
So, tomorrow should be fun, man. We got a bunch of kids getting together and, just having a little normalcy in their life.
Good to hear.
That's awesome. So you're doing something very different than what you did in MMA these days. And we follow you on social media.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us about it.
So I went years with hurting people, and now I'm actually trying to do the exact opposite.
Nice.
Primarily, I work in pain management, and absolutely love it, to be honest. If it wasn't for the space and a good buddy of mine introducing me to this, high pressure sales, you get a lot of the same feelings. At the same token, I get to help people along the way, so the deals are great. They're big. When you win, you win. When you lose, it's a ball kicker, So for me, it's a lot of the same emotions. And work ethic too. It's all about who can outwork each other. So there's a lot of same similarities. And I'll be honest, if it wasn't for what I do right now, I might be struggling as an individual.
Wow. How long have you been doing this for?
Almost 10 years. I had my own distributorship for almost about 10 years right now. So I work for myself. I represent a few different products, help deal with pain with a few different indications. It's right about 10 years, man.
That's pretty awesome, dude.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, I love it.
Good for you. I want to take this back for a second. We met before, and I know, right? And for the people out there, the look that he's giving me is like, who? You? So a little story is many years ago. It might have been right after you were fighting. Now, Rocky is my conduit to the UFC. He's like my little guide. I learn all my stuff through him, and
I'm his MMA tutor.
He's my MMA tutor. So many years ago, through your aunt's sister, we were at Judy's house.
Okay.
And
I remember this, actually. I know exactly where you're going, I think.
Okay. So I'll cut the story in half. This Christmas Eve, my wife is talking to my mother and goes, "Hey, we're talking about like some family parties and stuff like that." And she was scrolling through Instagram. She goes, do you remember this couple that was at Judy's house? I think they're from New Orleans. I follow her. Her name's Amanda. And I'm vaguely like, I just remember the New Orleans part for some reason. Now, if I knew about MMA, I would have been like, shit, I fucking know this guy. This is awesome. And I apologize I didn't, like shit. But so there was a get together. And we met before, and my wife followed your wife, and I think vice versa. It was just a one-time meet. They might have hit it off or whatever. And I'm scrolling through, and I'm like, oh, the husband, I think he was a fucking fighter. I'm like, Rock, do you know Rich Clementi? He's like, fuck yeah, No Love. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, I'm like, oh, wow, I think I have an in. I know, family members. It's like, fucking let's go. Call them up. Let's go.
Yeah, my
Yeah,
exact thing
because-
is, well, what the fuck are you waiting for?
That's funny because, at the time, I actually don't think there was a lot of guys from New Jersey. Like you had myself, you had like Rico Rodriguez. And I'm trying to think because, I was a little bit before Frankie Edgar's time. He came a little bit, on the downside of my career. But for the most part, I'm really not pinging a lot of New Jersey guys at the time that really kind of made a mark, So, But yeah, so I mean, at the end of the day, I just started claiming New Orleans a few years ago.
Okay,
it took me a while to come off the Jersey, claiming that being a good Jersey Italian as I am. But
gotcha.
I love it down here, man. I'll tell you, the state's been great to me. It's where my family is, and my boys are raised here. So Louisiana is definitely my home, man.
I took my wife for her 30th a couple of years back to Louisiana. We both went for the first time, and we both did the typical, what's the fucking street? I'm thinking of the other street, Frenchman.
Bourbon Street.
Okay, but I went to Frenchman, which was really cool. Right? Is it like Frenchman Street with there's a little more music
No,
playing?
that's where all the gays hang out, actually. Why were you there?
That's why.
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, they have beignets and little shops and stuff over there.
But we fell in love with the place. Every time, obviously we got married, then we had kids, blah, blah, blah. But we always say to ourselves, we have to go back. We have to go back.
Yeah, hit me up next time you're in town, man. We'll give you the tour for sure.
Such a fucking cool place. Such a cool.
So you've been able to successfully transfer from MMA to an awesome career that you say that has almost the same ideal as MMA, where it's very competitive.
A lot of emotions.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's a lot of combat sports athletes that don't do this. Now, did you have a plan before you got into MMA to your exit strategy, or was it just hey, fuck it, I'm going to fight and then we'll see what happens?
So that's kind of a twofold question. And one, I think a lot of guys fight for the wrong reason. Okay. And I think a lot of guys fight to prove to people kind of who they are. And unfortunately, I think that that's the exact wrong reason to fight, because most generally you get exposed. And as long as you're winning, that really doesn't come out. But when you have those really tough matches, that's when you see guys kind of fold under pressure and stuff, and you really get exposed as a human being. Yeah. And, I teach a lot of kids. I've been teaching kids a long time. And, I don't think you could really ever find – I don't really know many fights where you've ever seen me kind of cower on the ground and ball up or do any of that thing that years ago, if you did that, early UFC and stuff, if you did that during a fight, you were blackballed in the sport. Now it's common and okay to do that. I really had kind of lost all respect for that, But so that's one thing. I think guys fight for the wrong reason. And then the other thing is for me personally, people ask all the time, well, why did you fight, blah, blah, blah. And I was it's not that fighting defined me. It's more of who I was, an expression of my personality at the time, With that being said, it might be very difficult for me to step back in and be that guy. I've kind of buried him a little bit. Don't get me wrong. A lot of the same attributes come out, but I was a very, very volatile individual with a chip on my shoulder growing up. And it's just because I came from a hard place. A lot of things didn't go my way, and I felt I had a lot to prove. And that was really my driving force behind that. So, but where I think guys struggle after they're kind of, the light dims a little bit for them, should I say, is because, they get so wrapped up in that identity, that guy that's on TV or something, they think that that's what defines them, and again, for me, it was more of an expression of who I was, not necessarily, that the sport or what I did or my status defined me necessarily. And that's when the guys come out, they still try to hold on to that, and I feel bad, man, because I've known a lot of great guys over the year that they're just shells of human beings, and it's not because they're great people. It's just because they're stuck on that's who they think they want to be or should be, instead of learning that experience and taking that experience and use as a vessel to level up and redirect a lot of things that they may have learned. But, they're just stuck, man, in a hamster wheel. And I hate it for them, man. It's a brutal business for sure.
Yeah, man. And I know that, when UFC got sold, they had, and before that, like guys like Chuck Liddell or like Forrest Griffin, who like kind of like had jobs, like talk to fighters about planning for after fighting and like that kind of thing. And I don't know if enough of that goes on these days. We see, and again, there's some guys like Anderson Silva who consider himself a lifelong martial artist, but I think there's, there's obviously a shelf life. And some of the guys that don't have something, a guy like Anderson doesn't need to fight anymore, but he does.
Yeah.
I think that was something like within you that was like, hey, listen, I know that fighting is a finite period, and then I'm going to do this.
Well, see, I actually, and I tell this story a lot, and I'll just give kind of the fast version of it. But, and Jens Pulver is a good friend of mine. And I remember we were under the same management team by Monty Cox. And I remember going to Jen's house for the first time, helping him get ready. I think it was for the BJ Penn fight. And, I was like, oh, man, I'm going up to Davenport, Iowa, Pat Militich's. Like, this was kind of a dream of mine and what I was working towards. And, I remember going to Jen's apartment, and I said apartment, and at the time he didn't have a car, and, most of his furniture was made out of particle board, probably, rent to own type deals, I'm sure. But he had his 3 or 4 UFC belts on that particle board shelf there, and then I went a few days and stayed over Monty's house after that. And, Monty managed and put on events and things like that. And here's a guy with the family and the nice car and the nice house. And, I was like, that was a real eye opener for me. And, Monty mentored me almost as a father figure. And there was so much I respected about him as an individual. We have a great friendship. We still talk every now and then. But I just said that I was never going to be that guy that had to fight because I had to do it. I'm always going to do it because I want to do it. And the day that passion is like not there, or for some reason I just can't, I'm going to stop, and that was really the deciding factor for me personally. And what's crazy is, there was even a time Dana White, we were sitting down and he discouraged me because I used to do events, and I've done over 100 different promotion shows. I used to do feeders to really raise guys in South Louisiana because there are even the whole South in general. I did shows in Mississippi too, but I've done over 100 promotions, like 20 casino shows. I was the first event ever at the River Center in Baton Rouge, first event ever in the Superdome as far as MMA goes. And, it was, I always try to diversify, and actually Dana White didn't like that. He was like, you really need to focus more on the UFC. And, if you want to really go places, this should be 100% of your focus. But again, I always knew that there would, do you guys remember, any of you guys remember Justin Eilers?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, he actually passed away. His dad killed him. Actually, I think he shot him. Yeah, but he was managed by Monty as well. And I remember one fight, I think he won. I'm not 100% sure, but he broke both his feet and his hands, and that dude did not fight for a year, And so imagine at the time, I think maybe a guy like that was getting 20, maybe 30,000 if he was lucky. You have taxes on that, so let's cut that right down to 15. Then you have a management fee on that, and that's off of gross. You know what I'm saying? So let's bring that down to 10. Yeah. You're training for the fight prior for 2 months, so you really don't have income 2 months prior. And then the guy's hurt for a year. It just especially the time that I was competing at, you had to love it. Now it's a little bit more of a business. There's some things in place, but it's just rough, man.
Yeah, I can't imagine that, even though Dana White would want you to promote UFC more, but you're still promoting yourself. You could still bring light to the UFC. The bigger you get when you step into the UFC octagon, more people will watch. But
no, it's just like pro football, man. It's like pro football without the money, though, right? But those guys, they're just cattle. and the same thing, like with the UFC, really all professional sports, like they don't give a rat's ass about you. It's there for the journey. Get it while you can, use it as a stepping stone in life, do something special that a lot of people can't, and look at it as that.
Gotcha.
And then, look for the next phase of your life. Because again, unless you're in a coaching position or something like that, like, it just dims. And specifically with, today's tone and environment where everything's got to be, super exciting and pegged out, and you have to have all this social media presence and stuff like that. Unless you're if you're not fighting, it is very, very difficult to keep that spotlight on you, I think. And if you're not doing that, you're not making money.
Yeah, no, listen, totally. I listen to I'll listen to like Chael Sonnen's podcast, and he always says what got him, or what fighters you're used to being. Okay, I got a fight coming up. It's something you're looking forward to. You're training for. Everyone's asking you questions about it, and then he even said during his active career, when the fight was over, he would go into maybe a little bit of a depression for 6 months to whenever his next fight was. Did you ever feel anything like that, where you feel like if the spotlight was off you for a second, you kind of felt like, oh, I'm not working towards something. I don't have a purpose.
Yeah, and it wasn't necessarily that for me. It was more of if I had a real easy, quick fight, those were the times I actually went more into a darker place, or because I felt like I had all this buildup, all this emotion that I just had to drain. I had to get that gas tank back down to E. Mm-hmm. And, if I went in there and had a very quick victory, I left like I just didn't ever do the journey. I was in it for the dance, man. Mm-hmm. I wasn't just to go home and hey, let's walk out to the back seat of my car and do it. I wanted to wine and dine that whole experience, So not to have that was really those were the times it bothered me. I mean, I remember actually feeling more fulfilled off of a few losses where, I really laid it out on the line and just, that's what I live for, So, it's just weird. There's so many emotions in there. And I think that's where guys lose it afterwards, is that they have a difficult time finding something that is as fulfilling, or at least, has that same type of life interaction. And when that's not there, that's where I think a lot of guys struggle.
That's got to be such a high. That's like people say, no other drug, going into the octagon, fighting to the win, we'll call it. And Rocco and I, we always say in this podcast, we him and I have a band, and we played in front of a decent sized crowd and stuff like that. But there's no high like going one-on-one against someone and who's the bigger man.
Yeah, well, especially when you hate their guts too. You want to talk about really being exciting. You sprinkle in a little bit of animosity into that equation, and then things get really exciting,
See, that's where I kind of can't differentiate sometimes, is when all the how much is the game, how much is not. Pre-fight, you see they're like, you're fucking nothing, and then they hug each other at the end. So I'm like, all right, did they really hate each other? And then it's like, are they WWEing me right now? What's going on?
Yeah, no. With my fights, if there was anyone I dislike, you will absolutely never see me hugging them at the end of my match. Yeah. It's like, get the fuck out of here, you loser.
Yeah. So Art, so Rich, me being Archie's MMA tutor, right? I can't, tell him everything that whatever. I said, do me a favor, watch Rich Clementi, Melvin Gillard. Watch it. Watch the fight. Watch the post-fight interview that Rich gives. That was something like you seriously did not like him.
Yeah.
No, not at all. And to be honest, it's funny because I've had some public speaking engagements, whether it was kind of coaching sessions or whether it was kids or adults and stuff like that. And what's funny is people that are around me like Rich are like, you don't have a planned speech, and I'm like, actually, I don't, because the best speech I've ever given in my whole life was while I was still breathing heavy and in front of, hundreds of thousands of people. And I absolutely loved everything that came out of my mouth. So I'm like, if it worked then, I'm just going to keep flying with it, and go from there. So, but yeah, that's pretty much like if I dislike you, that's the real deal. Unfortunately, I love the sport so much that I did look at it as a sport most generally. And I really wish I could have dove into that guy more often, though, because I'll tell you, every fight I had a problem with someone, I absolutely just murdered them, So I really, really wish I could have came into that guy a little more often.
So Archie, the funniest thing after the fight, it was Rich, the wave you gave, it was like, bye.
It's funny because I've been in some negotiations. We've talked briefly with bare knuckle boxing. I guess they want to see that old like Sylvester Stallone fight, in that one movie. Yeah. I forget which one it was, but he fights for bare knuckle boxing and stuff. And part of me says like, yeah, I would do it just to let that guy out of the cage a little bit, and that would be fun. But at the same token, it's like, just some things you want people to live with. Like I put a feeling in his soul that he has to live with forever, so it's like for me to even allow him the possibility of deviating off of that a little bit. I just don't want to do it. I want him to like totally take it to his grave. So, yeah, I guess that's the no love side of me, right?
Yeah, there you go. And listen, no disrespect to Melvin Gillard. One of my favorite fights I've ever seen. And after the fight, he was saying, "It ain't over. And I'm like, you just tapped out. That's the universal sign for it's over. No, I don't want any more.
No doubt.
But that was one of my favorite fights to see. But talk about being on The Ultimate Fighter. That's like a different experience that a lot of fighters never get to see or never get to do. That's pretty unique.
Yeah. So, that was such a weird time for me, man. My wife was on bed rest with her first child. So like that was always eating at my mind. There was and being a dad is my most serious job that I do. I would like, I live my life for most people to say, like, if you had to say two of the best dads, that my name gets brought up. I take my job being a dad very seriously. And, I raise eagles, man. Like both my boys are just killers, straight A's, great guys, murderers on the mat, just winners, man, Nice. But so that was a tough time period. And then I also had a show that I was doing in Baton Rouge. It was the first MMA event ever in Baton Rouge. And the attorney general was trying to shut me down. And I already had like $150,000 already in that show. So it was of my own money, and again, I'm a broke ass poor fighter. So like that's a lot of money, And so not being able to like call and see what was going on with that. And, having an attorney general trying to pull my license and stuff, like it was very, very stressful. And then the show itself, like, it's weird because, they edit things to make you feel a certain perception, and that's what any reality show. I actually like the idea of our season of The Ultimate Fighter, the Veterans Edition. That was really cool. But I feel like the whole idea, and that's why they only did it once too, just so you guys know, the way our contracts worked for the Veterans Edition was that if you won your next fight in UFC, your purse doubled. So being I was on a 6-fight win streak, my head was totally on the chopping block. The time I got cut from the UFC, I was the highest paid lightweight in the division as far as what I know. And, when I had a pretty boring ass fight against Gray Maynard, who was like ranked number 2 in the division at the time, they literally turned around and gave me the exact same replica fighter in Gleason Tabao. It's a big guy, wrestler. They seen I just had that trouble with that type of style. And, even though I was on a 6-fight win streak and I took a lot of fights on last minute, they cut me on that. And both guys, I think Gleason was like top 5 at the time and Maynard was top 2, so it was a little bit of a dick move, but I get it's business, but, where I struggled with the Ultimate Fighter at the time was, I think the whole purpose of that show was kind of to devalue the guys. If you remember, like way back, like Tito Ortiz, they started right before the Ultimate Fighter came out. They were blacking guys' faces out from the crowd and stuff like that. They were like trying not to make guys have value if they weren't in good standings with the UFC. So when the Ultimate Fighter came out, even if you want, because I fought exclusively over in Japan for a little while, just because I was a UFC veteran, I was demanding some decent money. And then once the Ultimate Fighter started coming out and these guys would get 2 or 3 fights on the UFC and be cut, they'd have chump fights and then be cut. Well, now they're flooding the market with all these guys who are claiming in parentheses like UFC fighter, So, you went from making, 30,000 not in the UFC to now, just to get a UFC fighter, they're paying guys 5 and 5 and stuff like that, So
wow.
It really damaged the market quite a bit. I mean, it helped the sport. If more helped the UFC, should I say, not necessarily the sport, but I think that it was done intentionally to devalue the UFC fighter, and not just that, but they're getting guys on super, super cheap contracts, and then the guys that were decent, they would kind of tug them along, and it just didn't cost a lot of money to have those guys compete for you.
It does sound like a dick move to not want to pay. And I thought that was a really awesome season. Like I loved the idea of it, and I loved, the cast was awesome. Did you connect with anybody in that house that you thought maybe you wouldn't, or
no,
vice versa?
I mean, we all knew each other anyway. I mean, you gotta know at that time in the UFC when all of us were fighting, like specifically that group of guys that were on the show, all of those, like you didn't get in the UFC unless at that time period, like, when BJ was first champ and Jens and that whole kind of time period in between, where they are, should I say, pre-Ultimate Fighter and then where the Dan Severns came from. But the group that was right in between there, you didn't get in the UFC unless you were top 10 or top 15 in the world. So pretty much everybody on that show had a lot of respect for each other because we all knew each other very, very well just from the circuit and fighting all over and, reading each other's names in Full Contact Fighter magazine when that was out and stuff, there was definitely a special group of guys that just everybody in the community knew their name at the time. And it wasn't because they had red hair or some crazy tattoos or other bullshit like that. It's because they didn't tap when punches came their way. That's why.
There you go.
Sam Albion, and he said about Ultimate Fighter, about the show. It's like no fucking phones, no books. No, like, was it that strict when you were in the house or when you were in the?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I actually I'm surprised that because it would have made for pretty good television, but I think Dana would have looked like an ass because I would have exposed why I did it. So I actually brought 2 phones on the show. So when I first checked in, they're like, "Oh, we need your phone." I'm like, "Oh, here you go. Here's my 1982 Nokia."
Yeah.
So then I hid my other phone and specifically because, like I said, my wife was on bed rest. There's no way I'm not going to call home and check,
Fuck that.
So
of course.
I hid my phone on the side of the bed and they were actually interviewing, Pete Spratt, and I guess I had my vibrator on in case there was an emergency at night. All you're hearing, how your phone's pressed up against the wall, it makes like that really loud vibrations. Well, I got exposed, and Dana called us all out, and he snapped my phone. It was funny because he struggled a little bit trying to break it too. I thought that was kind of comical, but he you guys are, and that was right after Jeremy Jackson got kicked off the show too. So it was like a big deal on you guys are going to mess up your opportunity. You guys don't take this opportunity serious enough and all that ear spanking shit. But, it is what it is. But yeah, it was stupid, man. It was nothing near like anyone's reality, to be honest. You want reality, come to my house, film my shit that I do over here, you know what I'm saying, with my work day and training kids. And, that's what I hate about this. I mean, everybody wants to see all the bullshit and, treat guys like animals in MMA. And that draws great ratings. But for me, I love the story, man. There's some really great story and struggles and, what guys do on their off time. And, I really wish somebody would take a reality show and really dive into people, because that's what I love. Not only about the sport of MMA, but just life in general, man. I love stories.
Yeah.
I think too, I think for the time that when you were in the UFC, it was you had that charisma, you had that killer fighting ability. Like that was a pivotal time that kind of got the UFC to where it is today, if you would, because it came from obviously the no rules or no weight classes, Hoist Gracie, Ken Shamrock things to, Ultimate Fighter coming on in 05, Chuck and Randy. And then, you were like one of those faces that ushered in the new era of MMA to the masses in the US. I mean, and that's got to feel pretty fulfilling now.
Yeah, no, it's and what's cool is, I helped a lot of guys out in the area. Like, I got Tim Crater on the Ultimate Fighter, which led to Dustin Poirier coming in, and, Sean Jordan, I used to coach him, and Kyle Bradley from here and stuff. And that's what pissed me off about Melvin was I helped bring his career up here locally too. He used to fight on my shows, and, we would pick good opponents for him so you would get some experience. But it's kind of cool because when people talk about specifically in this area, like who is probably the most influential factor, my name gets brought up. And what's cool is, that's something that no matter what, it will always be, you know what I'm saying? So I take a lot of pride in that. And, when my boys look back, what's funny, you can ask my sons the only videos they watch of me, and it's just my losses. They can't tell you one fight that they watch. They'll pull up shit people don't even know about. Like, oh yeah, Dad, what about your decision loss against Cal Uno? You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? So they throw that up in my face all the time. But at the end of the day, specifically when they get older, you know what I'm saying? Like I raised them to try to surpass me. That's kind of the game we play in the house. I've set the bar kind of high, but they're chasing and they're doing a great job, man, trying to peck ahead. And I'll tell you right now, they're going to murder me as far as my status that I've done. But, as a parent, man, I look at it like it's not my job to give. It's to give and enable. It's my job to give them the tools where, hey, here's every bit of what I am and what I have. Now run and kill this thing. You know what I'm saying? So I'm excited what is going to come their way, man. That's all my focal point right now.
That's awesome.
The transitioning into like Bellator out of the UFC, how was the transition as far as the companies?
Yeah, so you have to understand, like, I've probably fought on. I mean, I never actually counted, so I would be curious, but I've probably fought on 20-something different promotions, and everything from small to large, and Bellator was a great organization. I personally like fighting in Japan a lot. That was a great life experience. Specifically with the Zest organization. That's an organization that a lot of people don't know about because it was a mid-level promotion in Japan. It was kind of like Zest, and they fed guys over to Pride and stuff like that. But that was just an awesome experience. And I was talking about first, I was the first ever U.S. fighter to fight in a tag team MMA match,
Oh,
so
wow.
that was kind of
wow.
Too. Yeah, you could go.
I didn't know that. What explain that? That's crazy.
Yeah, so there was a guy that fought in the UFC. Monty managed him as well, named Jeff Kern. He was a little smaller than me, though.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a raw deal. So we're fighting the Katani brothers, and Katani had fought in UFC a few times. And Jeff goes out there. Well, I go out there first, and I'm fighting for a little bit, and I'm like, this is kind of cool. Let me tag out, So Jeff jumps in,
got a breather.
and I turn around. I don't even see it. And the very first kick that Jeff blocks breaks his arm. Right. So he literally fights for 2 seconds. I'm not even done getting my drink, and he's ready to tag out almost, and I'm like, no, dude. I'm like, earn your pay, dude. We're getting paid the same here, And so I go back out and I fight a little while, and I go to tag him back in, and he's reluctant to go in. but I didn't know his arm was broken, you know? So he goes back in and instantly drops the guard. And he butt scoots around, and everybody in the Zest organization, that's where Imanari came from. A lot of the best leg lockers at the time came from that organization because you can't punch him to the face on the ground. So all of them are heavy leg lockers. And so Jeff gets leg locked right away and gets beat. So I have to fight these two guys. And, you know, they brought me in deep water. Because they were smart. If I got on top in dominant position, they would kind of stall on the ground, and they do really fast stand-ups where like in 10 seconds or 15 seconds, you get stood back up. So they were just keep tagging out, and I'm getting worn out. I'm like, damn, this sucks, dude. I gotta try to put one of these guys away, you know? But anyway, they wore me down, and they got me later on, like in the 10 or 12 minute mark. But that was a hugely influential moment for me, because I said afterwards, that's like, you know what, if I can fight two dudes for like 10 or 12 minutes, I'm like, I am never going to not think that I can't do that against one individual. So I'm always going to push the gas pedal. But what pissed me off is that the better brother, Katani, the older one, the younger one who fought in UFC, they were using that victory against me as kind of like, they were using that in his promo stuff. Oh, I'll beat UFC veteran Rich Clementi. And I was like, pissed off about that. Yeah. So Zest did a huge 16-man tournament, and it was a really, really great tournament. It's probably one of the top lightweight tournaments ever to happen. If you want to watch some really good fights, check out the Zest 16-man tournament. But I told them, I'm like, look, I don't care who I fight when. I said, I just want to fight that dude early on in the bracket, you know? Good enough. They matched us up where we were the second fight, and I just murdered his ass, dude. And again, that was one of those events where I was really pissed off, you know what I'm saying? And right when the bell rang, I mean, he was busted up pretty bad, but right when the bell rang for the bout to be over, I had him in the tight guillotine. I mean, he just laid there on the ground. Blood was all over the place. So, but it was really cool, because after I won, they came into my locker room, because of course I was going to continue. I actually got second place in the tournament. Marcus Aurelio broke my orbital in the finals. But you know, they came in and they gave me the different color corner. They said that red is the sign of the warrior, and it was their way of kind of like apologizing for pushing him, saying he beat me. You know what I'm saying? So that was like as a martial artist, that was like a really special moment for me.
That's real fucking cool. That's a great story.
That's awesome.
That's
yeah,
it's
cool stuff.
I'd be like, throw me the fucking folding chair. Let's go. Fuck you, two of you.
Yeah.
That's cool. Good shit.
So one of the fights that sticks out in my mind, and again, I think you're on a short list of people that have, you know, fought this guy, lived to tell about it, and beat him, was Anthony Rumble Johnson.
Yeah.
Like, and if I remember, that was a catchweight bout, right?
Yeah, the motherfucker came in. They asked me to fight up in weight, because I was fighting lightweight at the time. But they knew I was, and that's what pissed me off when they cut me. Is like, motherfuckers, you knew I was a company guy. If you call me and you ask me to do something, you know, I was there and I did it, you know? So they're like, hey, look, this Anthony Johnson guy, his opponent pulled out. I know it's only like a 2-week notice. They're like, will you fight at 170? So I'm like, and at the time, I can't remember. I think that was before my Melvin Gilliard fight. I can't remember at the time. But I remember wanting to do anything I could to fight Melvin. And I would like to say that was before. I'm not 100% sure. But either way, every fight that I agreed to was with the idea of fighting Melvin. Because we had a little run-in where he sucker punched me at a local event here.
Really?
So, yeah.
Mistake.
Yeah, no doubt. You know, so, but anyway, so I took the fight, and then he came in in over 180 at our first weigh-in. And I'm like, dude, Joe, I don't even I'm a 55 pounder. So we made an agreement where he had to weigh in like 178 was the bout week, the mark we came in. But that's where I was kind of salty. A promoter did this once before, and I picked it up years prior. I was like, if I ever get an opportunity, that's what I'm gonna do. So we had an agreement where like the next day he couldn't weigh in over 185 or something like that. So, it didn't allow him to blow up too much. And I think that messed with his head. I think that he's already a guy that as long as he's a front runner, he's hell on wheels. He is very, very tough. But I've seen a fight or two prior where it's like he got in a little bit of jam. You've seen his facial expression change. And I just felt like as long as I could make his facial expression change, that the fight would go into and good enough. It kind of did. And during that fight, it was funny because I know I hit him with a really good shot. And, I seen his face change, and then he sticks his hand out to like, give me like high five, like nice shot. And I'm like, fuck you. And I like kick the shit out of him, and I just felt like right then I was in control, and I just pushed him, so, yeah. And that's the thing, man. It's like, and that's why I love this sport. And I don't think this sport, I mean, if you really want to look at the guys who I think are about it, it's not the guys who win, and I hate to say it, like Conor McGregor is a terribly, terribly talented dude, right? I mean, the guy is amazing athlete and stuff. Mm-hmm. Dude, he folds, bro. Every time he gets hit, and they're making a big deal about, his leg contusion. Dude, I tore every single tendon in my knee and fought for 2 more rounds and won. You know what I'm saying? And there's the laundry list of guys that have stories just like that are all the same. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, to me, the guys I really, really love to watch are the guys who are just gritty, man. I love grit. I think that when you talk about the sport of MMA, like that's what it's about. And to
like throw some names out that fight that you think are like those kind of guys.
I mean, pretty much the whole stable of Russians are kind of like that right now. The one heavyweight dude, I forget his name, but he's from like Holland or something like that. I forget his name again. Just I to be honest, I don't watch the sport like I used to. I really don't get to do much of anything besides my businesses right now, and my kids, you know what I'm saying? So, I'm a little disconnected when it comes to that, but, like I said, to me, the time used to just be a little different,
Yeah.
Sure. So speaking of the McGregor-Poirier fight that just happened, what do you think? Do you think when you said that looked like Conor broke, or like to me it almost looked like he was like gassed, like he didn't, like you said, he's super talented, but he didn't do what got him to the dance. Like his movement wasn't great. He looked like he was like maybe trying to conserve too much energy because he was concerned about gassing.
Yeah. I don't think that it's funny because I don't think when you use the word gassing, I don't really think that is as much of a physical thing as that is an emotional or a mental thing, to be honest, So whether it's putting too much pressure on yourself, whether it's hurt and then you're second guessing yourself, which is slowing yourself down, or maybe not having the same mental confidence that's kind of keeping that elevated levels of just, brain chemicals that, endorphins and things like that make you just kind of push really, really hard. It's tough to say, but I really think that it is, when you talk about gas or guys gassing out, it has way more to do that. Because I'll be honest, like my ass, I'm so banged up. And I mean, that's why I'm in pain management. It's actually for my own issues that I deal with, just so I could learn the best guys, who the best surgeons are, what's the best procedures are. I don't want to know it all because I'm pretty jacked up. But, I'll go in there even right now. I mean, I've trained sporadically maybe 2 times in a year, and the last time I was in there, I rolled 100% for 40 minutes. I did stand up against a few really good guys and held my own, almost kind of like I didn't skip a beat. And I'll tell you this, I'm sure not fucking in shape. You know what I'm saying? I have a hard enough time getting out of bed in the morning, So I think a lot of that is more about mental preparedness and, being able to hold that type of fortitude line where no matter what, nobody, alters that. And again, that's where I think the difference is in front runners. Fighting's easy when you're a front runner. I mean, who the fuck doesn't like fighting when you're standing in front of somebody making thousands of dollars beating the shit out of? I mean, that's a good day at work, right? But, you know, what I am impressed with the guys that are about it, and you just see them throwing down and being hurt and still prevailing. Like, you know, that's what impresses me anyway.
Yeah, you know, it's like you know, I don't know if you saw the fight a couple of weeks ago, Max Holloway, Calvin Kattar. Calvin Kattar, you know, he absorbed the most significant strikes because Max threw the most significant strikes in a fight. But, I mean, the fight should have been stopped. But this kid was hurt and was throwing like haymakers. So you could tell he wasn't breaking. Like, he got, you know, no disrespect to him, he's a tough motherfucker, but he was getting starched in there, didn't go down, and was thrown back. Like, like, holy shit.
Well, you know, and that's the thing is that what the fan doesn't understand when they see a guy not doing well, right? Like, let's use that fight for instance. Like, man, you know, he's a tough motherfucker, but, you know, he was just getting his ass kicked. Part of the reason why he was probably getting his ass kicked, because he was probably past the threshold of where 99 people can't go.
Correct.
You know
Correct.
And I've actually had a few fights like that where even now I watch it and I'm kind of pissed off of myself. Like, man, I should have been doing fucking better. But then I remember like the shot that actually hurt me, you know, and I've never been knocked out, but I guarantee I was very, very compromised during a few of my fights where I'm just on cruise, man. You know what I'm saying? And you know, of course, when that happens, all systems are failing and, you know, you're just not performing. But, you know, the fact that you're still just trying to go, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like the Holloway fight, like, you could guarantee that dude was on cruise control and just trying to do it, you know, but that's a guy that's about it, man. I have a lot of respect for that. And again, I wish the sport would be more, you know, don't get me wrong, a double-edged sword. I'm paying for that today, having that attitude, you know what I'm saying? It comes with a price for sure, you know.
But look at the career you have now.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah, but you know, and luckily I wasn't necessarily a rock'em sock'em robot type guy, you know. But there's a lot of sad stories, man, like Spencer Fisher and, you know, where those guys.
I just read that, man. That is super sad, man, because he was you know, for sure, an entertaining fighter.
Yeah, you know, and you know, it's just, you know, there's a price to pay, dude. You know, you have to know that. And and that's why even people ask me now, and I love the sport of mixed martial arts. I mean, it's definitely defined who I am today. People ask all the time, like, oh, come on, Rich, you're being a fucking, I'm going to use a nice word, but pansy, you know, like, come in and train, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, man, like, I realize that I've used up a lot of those highway miles, you know, like I have all off-road miles. And the problem is that what I have left, like, I want to use wisely, man. And I'm not going to be selfish. Those days are done, you know, and it was about me for a while. And now it's just, you know, I try to save the rest for the kids and my kids program. I have a bunch of wrestlers that we have. And, you know, I'll ride it out there, man, you know?
No, that's for sure noble. Do you know how many fights you've actually had professionally? I mean, if you look on the internet, it's like over 70 or what have you. But
yeah, so I've had I've had over like 75, I think, and then I've had 15 professional Muay Thai bouts. One professional boxing bout. And then I used to love submission grappling tournaments, man. I probably chalked up, you know, 200 or 300 submission grappling tournaments at the time. Every weekend I competed somewhere, you know. So, and then we used to do, at my gym, we used to do what we call Bloody Sunday. And literally, like, it was kind of the ongoing joke because all the ER doctors knew that on Sunday, because guys would come over from all, like, everybody in the South came to my gym on Sunday because they knew that the guys who were about it would train. And literally, we would just take like rolls of toilet paper and we would like stick it to the cut on the guy's head, and we would just tape around it and put a smiley face on there and send them off to the hospital for stitches, you know. But you know, that took a toll too, man. You know, like that probably wasn't some of the smartest training that we did, but you know, you have to remember that a lot of what I designed, what I did was off of Pat Militich's program. And I'll tell you, anybody that's ever trained up there during that time period, there's probably not one gym that you could find that has ever been about sparring like that place has. I mean, literally, there was guys knocked out every single practice. I mean, it was a rough environment. But if you look back to the legacy and the champions that came out of the gym, I mean, again, there was a reason for that, also a trade-off, right? There's a reason and a reward and trade-off for everything, man.
So all these professional fights, over 70, what have you, mixed martial arts, Muay Thai, what is the one mindset you have to walk in there? Because I tell Archie this, I'm like, listen, it's 99% of the population will never feel that rush and never be able to have the courage to walk in. You're fighting someone that wants to literally like hurt you with, obviously not kill you, but if it happens, it happens. What is the mindset that you get yourself ready for to go in there?
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily a mindset that I had to prepare myself for walking in. It was most generally like I was pissed off that this guy thought that he could beat me. So it was really like a dick measuring contest, just to be honest, for me. I mean, yeah. I'm a highly competitive person. And, if you think you can beat me, I'm going to prove you wrong. And what's funny, I was kind of a horrible guy to bet on, because the fights that I was supposed to lose, I usually come back and won. And then the fights that like I was hugely favored, some stupid shit would happen. And it was because on those fights, I wasn't concerned with the individual. So I feel like I didn't put myself on the same mental platform that I had to prepare myself in the same way. You know what I'm saying? And so that was probably my Achilles heel. And then even where guys were good at, instead of doing the smart thing and saying like, I should probably avoid that at all costs, I was like, hey, oh, you think you're good at that? Well, I'm good at that too. You know what I'm saying? And it's just not there's not a lot of longevity as far as that type of mentality goes.
Well, listen, you've had such a long, illustrious career. We want to talk to you again. We can't cover it all in one time, but tell the people, where they can find you, what you're doing, and what's going on. Yeah,
I'm pretty active on Facebook. So you can follow me on Rich Clementi on there. I'm on Instagram too, but to be honest, like Facebook's kind of fun for me. I do a lot of business on there. And then, I'm really, really proud of our kids wrestling program. I feel like, there's not a lot of last frontiers for the kids as far as learning to be hard nosed. And, if I had to compare my style of coaching, I would consider myself like a old Russian gymnastics coach or something like that. That's like, if I tell them not to breathe, I expect them to pass out and we'll pick them up off the floor, So, but I feel like that's missing for kids. And I'll tell you, man, my kids that I have, I mean, just such leaders, dude. They're light years ahead, not just my personal kids, but a lot of the kids that I coach, man, they're just all eagles, dude. And I'm like, in a time of sheep, man, I want to create flyers, dude, so it's my way to take everything that I've learned up to this point in life and just kind of channel it into a younger generation and, be happy to look back one day and look at that guy and say, I was influential. I mean, just to make a long story short, there's a kid, Daniel, who I used to coach, and I let him his last year before he left for college. I allowed him to follow me in some of my surgeries that I did and stuff. And right now he's in school, getting close to finishing up his medical degree, going in as a physician, and just an awesome kid. So it's like I'm seeing these young men that I've taught for years now start to come into adults. And I used to love teaching adults, man, but what I realized is that you can't change those motherfuckers. They are who they are.
Yeah.
And I used to really beat my head on the wall because I was like, man, why can't I just get this guy to be successful? Whether it was fighting, whether it was life, whether it was ever. And then I just realized like they just are who they are, and it's too late. you know? So that's where I really started focusing my time on kids, and just tremendously rewarding. And you know, kids are like clay, man. You could just do so much with them. And, you know, I just, it's kind of my way to give back, man, for sure.
Well, I'll tell you what, in a generation that is afraid of peanut butter, I'm glad you're installing some roughness and some fearlessness into some kids.
Yeah, no. Somebody's got to be the leader in the next generation.
So, you know, we're gonna say Louisiana boy, still a little Jersey at heart. Rich Clementi, listen, brother.
He's an Italian guy from Jersey, Arch, just like us. Come on, stop
you never
it.
lose that.
If you go in his fridge, he's got fucking prosciutto superside hidden behind the fucking beignets.
No, actually, there's some pizza waiting for me that we ordered tonight, to be honest.
All right.
Rich, I can't thank you enough for me and Rocky. Thank you so much for taking time out of your night. I know you're very busy.
Yeah, it was great seeing you again. And what's funny, as soon as you said that, dude, it resonated right away. I was like, oh, I totally remember that, man. Specifically. That was a good time of everybody getting together, actually.
Yeah, and hopefully one day I'll see you in Jersey again, or if I ever, you know, when my kids fucking grow up, then I can travel again. But
no doubt, I'm feeling you on that.
Again, thank you so much for your time, man. We really appreciate it.
Want to talk to you soon, pal. Thank you so much.
Man. No problem. Have a good night.
That was an awesome interview. That was a good time. That's a crazy motherfucker. If I was a fighter, I probably would not want to go against that guy.
Nah, dude, yo, I'm telling you, dude, he fucking in his prime had it all, bro. Like crazy fighter, awesome charisma, super fucking likable, tough as hell.
And that post interview with Rogan in the octagon.
Yeah,
who was it? Who was the verse?
Against Melvin Gillard. It was one of the best post-fight interviews I've seen.
So with that being said, Rocco, what do you have to say to the people?
If you just heard us talking to fellow paisan from Jersey, Rich Clementi, and you say, "Que pasa, mi gente," and you walking around all hard like your pasta's al dente, then you're listening to Not These Two Fucking Guys podcast.
We out.
Give me the brajol.